Life's like a road that you travel along. There's one day here and the next day gone. Sometimes you bend, sometimes you stand, sometimes you turn your back to the wind. There's a world outside every darkened door. The blues won't haunt you anymore. Where the brave are free and lovers soar. Come ride with me to the distant shore. We won't hesitate to break down the garden gate. There's not much time left today. Life is a highway, I wanna ride it all night long. If you're going my way, well, I wanna drive it all night long. Through all these cities and all these towns, it's in my blood and it's all around. I love you now like I loved you then. This is the road and these are the hands. From Mozambique to those Memphis nights, the copper past the Vancouver slides. And knock me down and back up again. You're in my blood, I'm not a lonely man. There's no road I can hold, a road so rough, this I know. I'll be there when the light comes in. Just tell me we're survivors. Life is a highway, but I wanna ride it all night long. Woo. If you're going my way, I wanna drive it all night long. Gimme, 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 yeah. Life is a highway, but I wanna ride it all night long. Yeah. If you're going my way, I wanna drive it all night long. There was a distance between you and I. A misunderstanding once, but now we look it in the eye. Ooh, there ain't no load that I can't hold. A road so rough, this I know. I'll be there when the light comes in. Tell me we're the survivors. Life is a highway, but I wanna ride it all night long. You're going my way, but I wanna drive it all night long. Gimme, 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 yeah. Life is a highway, I wanna ride it all night long. You're going my way, I wanna drive it all night long. Gimme, 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 life is a highway, I wanna ride it all night. Yeah, I wanna drive it all night long, baby. You're going my way, I wanna drive it all night long.
I get lost because I'm so used to the live version, man.
Holy smokes, Joe Don Rooney.
Thank you, buddy.
Dude,
Thank you.
that was incredible.
Let me catch my breath. I'm nervous here, man.
Wow.
Big deal.
I
really
love that
appreciate
solo.
the time. And
I love that
thank
solo.
you.
So good.
Thank you so much. And like we said, I have Dan Huff to thank. I
Yeah.
really do. I might be playing, but his inspiration through the years and getting to work with him is what brought this out of me. You know, I was, like I said, I was a Telecaster guy, you know? And I was chicken picking, trying to do all the Brent Mason stuff. And I always admired Dan's playing. But until I got to work with him, that's when, oh yeah, I remember all those solos Dan Huff played now, you know, and I'd go back and listen, you know, and we'd go work together and I'd talk about what you do on that Michael Bolton thing, what you do on this one and that one, what was it like in Giant? And that little bit of Dan Huff in me, like, really started wanting to come out, you know, and I'm just grateful for our relationship.
So on this song, "Life Is a Highway," you know, the famous Tom Cochrane song that you guys made even bigger as a consequence of the movie Cars and the soundtrack.
Yeah.
That was the first time you ever worked with Dan. You never had worked with him until
No, I knew him at the time because on our label there were some other acts he was producing, and from time to time I would see him. So I definitely had gotten to meet him before. But I remember, it's kind of interesting inside baseball. We'd worked with Mark Bright and Marty Williams, had great success, but we felt like we wanted to maybe make a change. You know, nothing against them, obviously, but we just felt like we wanted to take our music, maybe broaden it just a touch, a little more rock backbone, pop backbone. Gary's wheelhouse is definitely pop influenced, tinged, but when he sings, there's still that little bit of honk country, you know, almost Ronnie Dunn kind of thing that he does so naturally. And we wanted to just expand on all that. And so I had a relationship with Dan at that point. I was able to call him occasionally and talk to him. Not about producing us until I did. Mm-hmm. So I called him. I'll never forget. We're on the road somewhere in Iowa. It was, late 2003, I want to say, something like that. Not too far late because he was at his son's baseball game. And he answered. I said, "Dan, hey, what's up?" And he goes, "What's going on, man?" I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm at Elliot's baseball game." I was like, "Oh, okay. Oh, do you have time to talk?" He goes, yeah, man, what's up? And I just said, "I'm going to get right to business. Would you want to work with us if the opportunity arises and the label agrees, and because we want to work with you?" He said, yeah, man, that'd be great. I'd love to. I was like, "Okay, thank you, man. Get back to your baseball game." "Okay, man, we'll talk soon." Just like kind of nonchalant too, but I don't think he realized at the time just how much that meant to me to hear him say, yeah, he wanted to work with us and produce us. And yeah, that was the first thing we went in to record, Life Is a Highway.
Where was that recorded?
That was at Sound Kitchen. Is that still alive? Sound Kitchen out of Cool Springs. We did this one first, and then we did What Hurts the Most, and then we tracked My Wish.
Wow.
Right?
Just consecutively a couple of days apart from each other, or like just in terms of like...
You know, just days apart from each other.
Wow.
Two of them are like the same day. And then we did a lot of the overdubs and stuff with Justin Niebank and Huff at Blackbird. And that's when I really got introduced to Bogner, you know, and a Les Paul. So, like I said, I was a telly guy, you know.
So when you did like demos of Life Is a Highway, was it on a telly?
I played a telly on the rhythm stuff to begin the tracks. Yeah, we had I cannot remember who was on that session, but it was, we just did bare bones tracks. And actually, I don't think Gary was able to be there to sing. He had something going on, or his voice stuff. And that happens with lead singers. It's totally fine. But musically, like Jay and I were like, we're pretty sure this key will work for us. Let's go for it. And we just recorded the tracks and then had him come in later, and it worked perfectly, actually. After, you know, Jay and, we'll get to this, but Jay and Gary are cousins from Columbus, Ohio. And, you know, they know each other really well. So Jay understands his voice and range and his keys, like, very well. And so we picked the key just off of us talking and discussing. It was like, yeah, I think we'll go with this. It should be the key of E. Of course, nowadays live, we do it down a half step. Yeah. And that's not really because of Gary. That's because of me. I got to sing above Gary, you know. But it's all good. But so then we took the tracks back to Blackbird and finished them out. And I remember going into an overdub session first. Life Is a Highway is the first one I'm going to crack and try to get finished, because Disney was like putting the pressure on. They wanted it done like yesterday, you know. And so Dan's like, "You ever played a Les Paul?" I was like, "I've held one, but I don't really play a Les Paul. I'm a telly guy, Dan." He goes, "Well, just check this out. He's like, there's no center pickup like the Strat and stuff, so you won't get bogged down with fingers and stuff like that. And he goes, just play this, hold this and play it. I was like, okay. And he had the Bogner hooked up.
There's the Ecstasy 101.
Yes, the 101B was there. He had just got that from Bukovac. Bukovac was the first one. He's always the first one, right, to get all the good stuff. And he'd like sold it to Dan or gave it to Dan, whatever. And
only
Dan
used the Blue
was
Channel.
Yeah, it's funny because Blue Channel's great for the solo stuff, but Red Channel's I found great for rhythm. You know, I still use the Red Channel for rhythm, but Blue to me is like where it's at. It's definitely got the gush and the good stuff that I like. And but he gave me the guitar. I forget what Les Paul it was. It was probably something that McBride had at Blackbird. It was just awesome and set up perfectly. But he was going through a full tone.
Full drive.
One of the blue full tone full drives,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the 2 or something like that. And I just remember them twisting knobs, and I was playing like the scatty little intro thing. And then we got to by the time we got to the solo section, it was like full on. And I was like, wow, okay, this is beautiful. Can we do that again? And Dan, he's got the patience of Job. So he's like, yeah, let's do it again. I mean, we went over and over and over with just different intro ideas. I mean, it's obviously very blues tinged, and there's so much you can do with that. But keeping it simple, keeping it melodically, in parallel with the melody of the song, we just felt like that one I landed on was the one. And yes, Dan's always been good about throwing out ideas and stuff, so it's not all mine. He might sing something, or just say he might grab the guitar from me, and I'm like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm leaving. But no, he'll grab the guitar and like play a little something and inspire me to go somewhere else. It's amazing making music, because if you like close your eyes and like listen to somebody play, and then you try to grab the guitar, like maybe try to go for it, you might go to a whole different place on the guitar than what you're used to. Before I moved to Nashville, I was so pattern oriented. I understood the keys and stuff. I wasn't real deep with like theory and stuff, but I understood the keys, and I could change the keys of a chord structure on a song if I needed to and stuff. I could read chord charts. I got pretty locked into box shapes, pentatonic and blues and stuff like that. But when I close my eyes and hear Dan is also from that world, but he's got such a sense for melody. And I learned more by being next to him and closing my eyes than I did, if my eyes were open, which is pretty amazing. One of the greatest nuggets he gave me, we'll get to my wish in a bit, but it was on my wish, is he said, set the guitar down. By the way, we had a Les Paul and a Bogner. And the whole Me and My Gang album should have been called Me and My Bogner. But he said, set the guitar down. My wish, the solo section. He goes, man, just sing me something. What do you hear that could happen right here? I mean, I've never tried to play guitar like that. I've always tried to find it on guitar, maybe struggle, which I've done a lot. And I just started singing this. And it was like, he goes, that's it, let's go. And then I had to find it. It was like, I had to find out where it was, because I wasn't for sure. And I learned so much from that moment, because some of the greatest records ever are just so singable. Not just
diatonic. You think of the best guitar solos, Journey, like all those. It's all sing it,
and not just the singer and the melody of the singer singing, but musically, all the underneath stuff. Yeah. And that's something Dan is an absolute genius at, his counter melody and being as far as you want to go, but still supporting the main melody. And in that moment, I learned that from him, and I'm so thankful.
You mentioned that sometimes he would show you
some water,
using his arm as a reference point for a fretboard.
Yeah.
Can you explain or rehash that story for the viewers?
There was, I don't remember what song or what recording session. It was an overdub thing, doing guitars on something. And I wish I could think of what song it was, because it makes sense with it. Because sometimes when you grab two chords at once, or two notes at once. If you try to do that with one finger, one of them can be a little flat or sharp, or typically sharp. When you grab them with two fingers, it's like you have more control over the intonation of the note. And he was telling me, he goes, man, he pulls out his trusty, guitar neck arm. He's like, man, instead of just the one finger, man, try to put two on there, and I promise you, like, it's gonna be more in tune every time, And that's something I'd never thought about. As simple as that is, right? I'm sure I've done it, used to do it, but I used to do it that way too. But in that moment, especially in the studio, as everything's so sensitive, and he grabbed his arm, and I was like, man, can you show me again? I wanted to see him flip his arm up. Yeah, it's just here and here, It's make sure you grab it too. And he's done it other times, but I've never seen anybody do that.
It's kind of ingenious. It's like his Mr. Miyagi trick,
Yeah.
waxing the car.
It is. It's cool because I found myself doing that now. If I'm working with other people producing stuff and working with a guitar player, like, hey man, maybe try. It's sensational. He's unique like that too,
Wow. And do you remember this song did you have a sense when it was being recorded that this was going to be such a huge hit? Did you think, well, we got the momentum of this, this movie that Disney is producing, and, we've got Dan Huff, this producer, and we like the song. It's already had kind of a track record with Tom. Like, did you think it was going to be as big as it was?
No, I don't think personally, I didn't know. It was such unknown territory for us. And getting to be a part of an animated feature, and we knew they had a pretty good track record with Pixar and Disney. But no, I don't think we ever dreamed what that song would end up doing. And so many kids across the world, for that matter, grew up listening to that song over and over and over again.
We hear it a lot. I sent you a video because my son's favorite movie is Cars and Lightning McQueen, and he even has like this kids like boom box called a Tony box, and it's got and you put like different figures on it, and it plays music from the movie that so you put Lightning McQueen on there, and the first song that comes on is the Sheryl Crow one. I forget what it was called, like Real Gone, and then the second one that comes on after that is Life is a Highway. Life is a Highway, and and anyway, so we're hearing it all the time, and but it's so perfectly cast, the music for that, because it's like they just finished kind of this initial race. They're going out to California, and they're on the open road, and they're in the Mack truck, and it's just it's the perfect song, and
it's just before everything changes in that movie.
Right.
It's where he gets a little lost after that.
Yeah,
but it is, and the feel of it. Gary's unbelievable vocal, and Jay's bass play, and a lot of people don't give enough credit to the bass either. It's a pretty cool bass line Jay's playing, man. There's a lot that he's doing underneath that really dances really well. He's shadowing in a really cool way.
And we were just talking before we started this session, and I was like, Jay, you should do one of these, and he seemed like he was into it. So Jay, we're gonna hold you to that.
I'll hold you to it, pal. You better. I'm looking for you.
Do you remember like at the point with which you knew like, oh yeah, like this is like a huge song for us? Was there a particular moment where it was on the radio, or somebody said something to you, or the feedback you were getting when you were performing it, or something?
I think really that. I think we've gotten a lot of feedback from our fans through the years of just trying things within the guise of our show, and it seemed like that when it was good timing too. The movie came out, it was never a single, by the way. Radio just picked it up and started playing it.
Wow.
People called in requesting it and wanted to hear it. And so we never released it as a real single. And at the time, I believe Me and My Gang was out, the single Me and My Gang from the album Me and My Gang titled. And it kind of came up in like top 15 or so, and maybe crept in the top 20 or top 10.
I think it was 7 is what I think I have here,
which is crazy on its own because of the fans.
Yeah,
and
Also 7 on Hot 100, so it was, crossover for sure. Yeah.
It's a different time, too. The 2000s were a little bit different with the radio world and artists. But it was such a cool thing, man. I mean, and then, honestly, live is where we saw it first. And then, it ended up doing what it did on the charts. But live, it's just one of those, through the years we tried to, like, man, let's just go out and do it first. Let's do it in the middle of the show. And it's like, we got to do it at the end. We've had people, like, 10, 15 years ago, we had people, before we had enough hits to do a full show, people would leave as soon as we did it. They're like, that's the one we wanted to hear. Holding their kids' hands and walking out. And I understand that. So we had to start putting it at the end of the show to keep people in their seats. Or standing up enjoying the show.
You want to do the Smashing Pumpkins thing where they play like all their first 10 songs or hits, and then they go, okay, Harry, you can leave, and the real fans will stay.
I didn't know they did that. That's great.
They do.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
No, that's actually a great idea.
Then you really get to, have a mechanism to separate the true fans,
Yeah, true. That's the way to get it. Get the honesty from them.
Yeah.
But that song has just been extraordinary for the life of Rascal Flatts in our career.
Yeah, well, I mean, you really did something, I think, really great with the guitar part, and it feels like a fundamentally different song to me, just kind of the way that it was conceived. And, I was certainly familiar with the original one, but I just, as a guitar player, I selfishly gravitate to where I'm hearing all these extra licks and inflections and all that stuff,
Sweet.
And it's just really, really just masterfully done.
Thank you so much. I feel like within that session and working with Dann, I was starting to find my personality, as a player. You come to this town, it's like everybody shreds. Everybody's really great. I mean, and I felt like I was starting to get confidence of doing what I feel like I can do. I've always been like a chicken-picking country guy, but I had a little bit of, a soul for the blues and a heart for blues and especially like Stevie Ray Vaughan, that kind of stuff. Absolutely, I love it. I love the feel and the expression, and just the way it could be done a million different ways, inside of 4 bars. And it's like, and Dann helped me find that and bring that out of me.
Well, I'm wondering if we can move to another massive hit that has some great guitar parts, which is Fast Cars and Freedom.
Wow, okay.
And to me, correct me if I'm wrong, this one sounds like it has some telly on it. Does it not? Or
Yeah, well, I played, in full honesty here, I played the rhythm parts in that. And I believe, I was trying to look it up, and I cannot remember who played the actual lead guitar in it. But I used a flex tone, a line 6 flex tone 2, I think. That was really big back then. It was on the road with me everywhere, and I used that for all the all the chunks behind the lead. But that I can't remember who. It's terrible. I can't remember. I cannot remember who played the lead. I want to say it was. Back then,
this would have been 2004.
Yeah, it might have been.
And this was Mark
Mason.
Bright.
Mark Bright produced it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to upset anybody.
This was probably before Bukovac came into the picture, right? Because he kind of was with Huff.
We hadn't worked with Bukovac till probably 06, 07.
Okay.
But God, it's terrible. I don't remember. But we should look it up right now so we can play it.
Anybody with a Wikipedia, if you can look up who the other guitar player was, Fast Cars and Freedom.
That's the other thing. Like, it's hard to find that information now.
Yeah, sometimes it's obscure.
Allmusic.com is on sometimes, and sometimes it's wrong.
The interesting thing when I'm looking stuff up, some of the European credits are like way more detailed, which is ironic.
Really?
Like you look on some of those, and then so I look up like the European printing of it, and sometimes it's more detailed.
I'm thinking it's Jerry McPherson. I'm thinking it was.
We're gonna see who's right.
We're gonna find that. If it's I feel terrible. I should have that information in front of me.
What do you remember other than so you used the line 6 and do you remember what type of telly it was? Was it just something contemporary at the time, or what was your telly?
I always used an American Standard.
So it was like a '90s one,
special about it, yeah. And I got to tell you a story about a telly.
All right.
If you want to do that now, we can.
Yeah,
let's hear a sob story.
Let's hear the telly story. Every guitar player's got one of these.
My first guitar that was mine, that my dad bought for me, was an American Standard Seafoam green Telecaster. And
maple fretboard, rosewood.
maple fretboard. I mean, just straight up out of the factory, just the way it comes. And I just loved that thing. And the neck, I practiced everything on that guitar, you know. And that's the good thing about a Tele. It's not, you don't just have to play country music on it. You know, you can play all sorts of stuff on it. And I was playing Metallica. I was playing like Nuno Bettencourt licks. I was playing Brent Mason stuff, and like, you know, all on the Telecaster. And moved to town, had the guitar with me. We went on the road with Shelley Wright. I got the job with her. Jay was her band leader. And Jay at that time lived just outside of Nashville, over in West Meade. And so we got off the bus like really early in the morning. And he's like, man, you can just come over. I had to drive pretty far. He's like, just come over and stay with me. And, you know, we just figure it out later because we were dead tired. And so I drove over there and parked my little two-tone green Chevy Blazer that I had driven from Oklahoma. And this is 1999, like probably April of 1999. Go in there and pass out on his couch. I wake up the next morning and my SUV's gone. Gone. We had just opened a show for Vince Gill and he'd signed my Telecaster. And it was gone. Car was gone, my golf clubs, the Telecaster. They left my suitcase with all these clothes in it, which is interesting, my cash under my console. But they found the vehicle, like, I think it was 2 weeks after that, at some apartment complex in East Nashville. It's up on blocks. They'd taken everything off. They stripped it, I mean, bare. And man, I was just devastated. That guitar meant so much to me. And I still have the serial number, and I'd love to find it at some point. It's got to be somewhere. I don't think anybody would have, like, you know, bashed it and, like, burned it. It had Vince Gill's signature, I mean, and the year. And, gosh.
All right, you two.
Hurt. We're going to get you that serial number and do your work.
We'll put it on screen here.
Seriously, if that guitar showed up, I'd probably pass out. Because I lost my dad 2 years ago, 2023, November 19th, 2022, my bad. And the years are starting to get foggy.
All good.
And it just means so much to me because he taught me so much of what I know before I moved to Nashville.
Was your dad a good guitar player?
He was. He was really solid. You know, he didn't play a lot of licks and stuff, but he's one of those that just grabs a guitar and starts strumming. He just looks, it looks like it's an extension of him. You know, he just had that ability. And he's such a good singer, good crooner.
What's his name?
Wendell Francis Rooney.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And my mama Jo, married for 63 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and my mom sings like a bird, and everybody in her family, she was the eighth born in her family, youngest of 8. Everybody sang and played. My dad's family is pretty much the same. And every summer we'd have family reunions on her side and his side, and everybody would get up and have to do something, whether it's just hitting spoons on your knee, or everybody had to get up and do something. And that's when I started learning that I had a love for music around 9 or 10 years old.
So that's all takes us back to, it was a Tele on Fast Cars.
How about that, man?
And just a contemporary one, and the flex tone. And you remember, because the flex tone had all these, for people that don't know, is sort of like an early modeling amplifier.
That's exactly what it was.
And do you remember what you had it set to? Because they kind of had names that were sort of like represented. Like, it didn't say Vox, but it said like Chimey 64 or something like that. It's
amazing to remember all that, because I don't. I just know it sounded good. It was like one of the, like you said, one of the early modeling amps, and had a little pedal board that came out to it. I used it live as well.
Really?
It had some ripping sounds for, heavy guitar solos and stuff, but I don't remember. I don't remember what I put it on, but I just know what I played.
And this is one where, as you said, you didn't play the lead part on the record, but live you play kind of all of it. So is there how do you interpret a song like that where, presumably there were multiple guitar players or multiple layers, and you're trying to interpret that as the guitar player of the band? What's kind of your approach on that?
That's a really great question. I think I tried to, I listen to what they've done. Obviously, the records are the record. And I'm just inspired by the melody. And maybe I was kind of like, we have quite a few songs I do that with live. And that's one for. I think the record is like. And so live, I'll be like. Might change it just a touch, you know. Put my thing on it. No offense to whoever played that solo. We're gonna find out.
Figure out who it was. Oh, okay. No, we didn't figure it out. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. We'll put it on screen if we haven't figured it out.
Call Mark Bright and ask him. Jay might remember actually, but that's fun for me too, though. You know, I grew up playing all kinds of styles of music and playing in bars and honky tonks and interpreting songs my whole life. You know, old rock and roll, you know, George Strait songs, whatever. And then the 90s happened with Brent Mason and stuff, and I tried to learn those licks best I could in my own way. Some of that stuff is absolutely impossible. Mason is just a monster. But I also continued to develop my style by pulling from all those sounds and different styles. And so it's fun for me, although we didn't really play in the first few albums, to now play those live and go back and think about what they played versus what I, you know, and you get into habits playing live. You get kind of autopilot sets in, you do it the same way after a while. But I take from the quality of the melody and just kind of build it from there.
I think we did figure out the guitar players who? Tom Bukovac?
Did Lukather play on that? Book, I'm sorry, buddy, and I love you. You know I do. If you have another pedal for sale, call me. I'll buy it.
Well, I'm wondering if we can do a version of this, you know, Joe Don's mix and kind of interpreting sort of the fusing the live and in the record the way that you would. In
Absolutely, man. I'd love to.
Line up.
Don't believe me, I'll just sit right here shoulder. You don't look a day over fast cars and freedom. That sunset or riverbank, first time feeling.
Man, I love what you did with that solo.
Thanks. It's so crazy to like play back to these again and think about how good the musicianship was with those guys we got to work with. You know, again, like Lukather, tipping my hat to him. It was such a great solo. But it inspired me to want to take what he did and kind of do my own thing with it. And I'm so strapped in what we do live, especially just coming off tour. I was like, where's that ending at I want to go to? We actually have this crazy ending. It's a lot of fun. But it's cool. It's great to reminisce, too. It's good to go back to the well and go, wow, I mean, all these years. And to me, like, that was, Mark Bright and Marty Williams. It had a sound to it. We found our sound with our harmonies with those guys. And really had to do a lot with the placement of the vocals that Marty was really, really great at.
Can you kind of explain that? Because I think a lot of people, they don't understand that, when you look at bands that have incredible harmonies like Rascal Flatts or Eagles or any of these, like it's not just like, rarely does it just organically happen that you put three guys in a room and they just figure out, like, what was that process like, kind of developing the sound?
Well, I will tell you this. We've had a blend since day one. It's bizarre. The first night singing on stage at a little bar down in Printer's Alley, it was called Fiddle and Steel Guitar Bar on Printer's Alley. It doesn't exist anymore, sadly. But Printer's Alley does. But Fiddle and Steel was this tiny little just watering hole. It was the late 90s. You could still smoke. It was like you had to waft the smoke out of your eyes just to cut a path to walk to the bar, And it was amazing because Jay and Gary had been singing there for a while when I first moved to town. And Jay had been telling me about, his cousin Gary. So it just turned out one night I was able to be there and sing with them. And I knew I was filling in for a guitar player who was sick. And I knew every song they were doing, though. We started off with Church on the Cumberland Road by Shenandoah. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go. I know this one. And when Gary sang, I was like, ooh, wow, I hadn't even really met him yet. Actually, he didn't say hi to me until we finished our first set. I think he was like, who's this guy Jay's brought in here? Where's Shane at? Our normal guitar player. But as soon as we got to that chorus on Church on the Cumberland Road, there was a buzz that happened. And ironically, with Shelley on the road, Jay would sing the high part. He has this really beautiful falsetto, and I would sing the low fifth. And for some reason that night he goes, JD, he was like playing keys, he goes, JD, you go up, I'll go down. I was like, all right. And I took the high third above Gary, and Jay took that low five, and man, Flatts was born.
Wow.
It was like this.
Palpable.
Man, we finished the song, we all just looked at each other like, what was that, man? I mean, literally arms, the hair standing up in arms. And I'll never forget that moment because I thought, is this what I moved to town for? This feels like a God thing to me, It was like I could literally track and trace Gary. I'd never heard him sing before till that moment. And I just have this knack for tracking him. And, they're family, so they blend together pretty naturally anyways. It's just a godsend, man.
Wow.
It really was. And so taking that into the studio, we learned about, the panning process and where, we might have, Jay and I will double our parts typically. And you'll pan it in a certain way. What Marty did early on was he would have Gary's vocal obviously right in the center, and sometimes Gary's would be doubled. It depended on the song and the performance. And Jay and I would be like, go with me here. Jay's vocal would be like, let's say 10 o'clock, and then all the way down to the right side as well, like panned hard to the right side. And I'd be like 2 o'clock and pan all the way down to the left side.
And that's one of the doubles would be here, and then the others would be, okay.
Exactly. And sometimes we'd go triple.
Okay.
And sometimes, sometimes those would be doubled as well. You know what I mean? So it created this thickness and just the way it's set. We all played with that for a while. Marty found like kind of a sweet spot that really, the frequencies of our voice had to be found just the right way to make the blend like really stand out. And it's almost like if you listen close enough, you can almost hear a harmonic, you know.
Wow.
At least I can. Maybe I'm just insane.
Well, I mean, I think that it was definitely for like at that time that was the gold standard for, you know,
man,
the harmonies. I mean, it was incredible.
Thank you.
When you guys played that gig, how long was it before you like officially were like, okay, we're a band now?
It was amazing with my story. So Shane, I said the name Shane. Shane Sutton's incredibly gifted musician. He was playing with them at the time. He was the one that was sick, couldn't make the gig. Jay called me and I filled in. It turns out he'd also left the duplex I ended up moving into, so I got a place to stay, I got a band to play with. Like, I actually wrote a thank you letter to Shane because I was like, I don't know how to say thank you like this, but everything that you did opened up some doors for me. And I just
Turnkey.
I appreciate it, absolutely. And so shortly after that, he left playing with Jay and Gary to continue his band, The Healers. Like the Blue Healers, then they ended up being The Healers. And they were bad to the bone, man. They were so good. So good. And so they were getting a record deal, and he kind of left that. So they needed somebody full-time, and they just asked me to go ahead and join them. At least for playing the bars and stuff, and make a little extra cash.
Was it called Rascal Flatts at that point? What was the name?
They were still Deuces Wild. Okay. Because the two of them started the gig together. It was crazy, though, when we started recording some music, and we didn't know what to call it. And this will answer your question about how we get the band name. So we're really close to getting a record deal. Late summer of 1999, some labels were interested in the music at least. Everybody's like, what are you guys going to call this thing, you know? So from stage at Fiddle and Steel Guitar Bar one night, Jay, after a song, he said, hey, I want you guys to know that, you know, we're really close to getting a record deal, and all the names we've got so far suck. If you guys have any good ideas, please come and see us. And during that break, a guy named Jelly Roll, not the Jelly Roll we all know and love today, a guy named Scott Blackwell, old keyboard.
Fewer tattoos.
Yeah, fewer tattoos. Keyboard player came up to us on break and told us, he said, man, I grew up in the Boot Hill, Missouri. He said, and I had a garage band back then, late 60s, called Rascal Flatts. And by God, that's your name, I'm telling you. You can use it. True story. Wow. And so we did. And when we got their attorneys, during the record contract deal with Leary Street, we got ownership of the name. We drafted it's a really simple single-page document to present to Jelly Roll, Scott Blackwell, say thank you, gave him some cash, money, and just to say, man, thank you. This is an amazing gift you've given us. We love the name. And he didn't own it or anything, so it was like kind of free reign. That was during the .com boom too, you know, so we had to get rascalflats.com, .net, and all that stuff, and just crazy how things have worked out for the three of us. It really is. Like, if Scott wasn't in that club that night, we probably would be called Oklahio, and people would be throwing up. Or Southern Yankees is another one, you know? And if you think about it, though, it's crazy. Like, Gary's voice and just our thing, you know, it is Rascal Flatts-ish. It always was before the name was there, and the name just makes it be that even more, you know? Wow. It's wild.
Wow. That's incredible. Do you remember the first time when you guys were a band in making music, the first time you like heard yourself on the radio and thought like, oh, we made it?
I do.
When was that?
We were on this very extensive radio tour for Praying for Daylight, our very first song. It came out in January of 2000. And we were on this bus full time together, living out of suitcases and hotels. And gosh, we were gone for like 6 straight months, all over the country. We were coming back into Nashville on the bus. We'd flown out, so we parked at the airport, and our bus is bringing us to the airport to get our cars to drive home that night. And we have it on local radio. It was the Big 98 playing in Nashville, 97.9. And this, whoever the DJ was at the time, evening DJ, said, we're going to do Shine the Light or Turn the Light Off. And next up is some new group, trio called Rascal Flatts. You know, we're going to play the song, call in. They were like, we can't get off this bus and go to our cars now. We got to hear this, right? So they played our song, and people started calling in. And it's the first time we've heard on the radio together, all 3 of us together. And like the first 3 people were like, I don't like it. Too slick. Turn the light off. And some lady called and said, I don't know. It seems decent, but I'm just not for sure. I think, turn the light off on that one. The next person, kind of the same thing. And there was like 7 people in a row. I said they really liked it. It was really different. And said the lead singer sounded really cool. And that made us happy to hear at least, 70%.
Well, that number went up over time for sure.
Oh, man.
Do you remember like when you got your first big like paycheck for doing, these records? Yeah. Remember like the first big splurge thing you ever bought?
Couple of things. First off, I got to pay some college stuff off, and then I got to pay my mom and dad back. They had been so good to me. I think mom maxed out a couple of credit cards to get me to Nashville and like just to live off of for a while. And then I bought my first house, which was so cool, in a town called Old Hickory, Tennessee, just up north of Nashville. And but for some stupid reason, I was on the road. We had this dude come out to a show in North Carolina, owned a car lot. And he said, hey, you guys need to come out back here and check out this new Roadster I got. I bought the damn thing. Yeah. And they shipped it back to Nashville. It was beautiful, though. It was red, kind of looked different. I don't know if you ever saw those Chevy Roadsters. I mean, it set up like an old school Roadster. It had a flatbed in the back, but it had a top on it, and it was hard convertible. Mm-hmm. And it was cool, and it had like a good motor to it. And it was like the thing was beautiful. And anyways, I got a picture of it, and I'd sent it to my mom through an email, and she's like, "Well, that's the first big mistake you've made in Nashville." And so I had to sell it after that. It ended up being like, I'm not a real car enthusiast. It was like one of those, probably just a drunk decision.
What color was it?
Stupid drunk decision. It was red. I mean, you could see it coming from a mile away. I mean, it was candy apple red. Yeah. But it was a great car. I loved it. But it wasn't efficient for me. Yeah. So I went with got an old Ranger, Ford Ranger pickup truck that was used. I went from that to, where my heart really is.
Right. I dig that.
So I bought some good things, took care of some good business.
Yeah.
And, also
Ranger, that's a working man's car.
Made a big mistake.
Yeah. Well, you rectified it with the Ranger.
In the past. And I listened to my mom.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if we can move to the song Summer Nights.
Yeah, man.
And this is really cool. I love this because, there's a guitar that comes in, kind of a little bit later. You kind of start with one guitar and then it starts to get joined. Yeah. And does that one also have a telly? It sounds like there's a telly on there.
You know what? I'm not for sure, but I do know we had was playing a 63 SG Junior.
So single pickup.
The thing about Dan is he likes to layer things sometimes when nobody's looking. Usually probably about midnight at his house, And so it's a great possibility that does have a little, because I know what you're talking about, that sound. It could be P90s though. Sometimes they kind of mimic a little bit with certain frequencies dialed in on the amp. But I played the SG Junior, 63.
So single dog ear P90.
Mm-hmm. And then I played a Les Paul for solo stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that tracks if it could be possibly a P90 because it sounds brighter and kind of has more of that telly kind of punch.
Yeah, it does.
Do you know what amp you would have used on that?
Bogner.
Yeah, all ecstasy.
Yeah, even on the rhythm stuff. Now back then though, I also don't think about this. Because of Dan, I was inspired to get basically all the same stuff he and Bukovac were using back then, and there was a great diesel amp I was using.
Yeah, the VH4 I think they had.
And I also just an older Marshall, it was like it was a 50 watt though, and like sounded amazing, especially for rhythm stuff. But there was one other one. I have all this stuff in storage too.
Matchless, or did you end up with the Matchless?
I never was really into Matchless. I never owned a Matchless. And listen, they sound amazing for people who use them the way they use them. But I've always just been like a Fender Twin guy all the way up to nowadays, Bogner. But that Diesel's a monster, man. That thing is really good. And I'm glad we're talking about this because I probably need to go dig it out of my storage and dust it off because it's a great amp. It's got like the sideways knobs and it's such a cool amp.
Yeah, I think the one that's at Dan's place is the VH4. If that's the same one,
it's got to be the same one
because he's had that for I think a pretty long time, and those are German made. And
Dann,
you
play your ass out.
Just like the Wagner, right? It's all those German Marshall, hot rodded sounds.
No doubt about it, man. They're geniuses.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never played through a Dumble. Have you?
I have, a lot of them. Yeah.
Have you? Do you like?
Nothing's going to stop you. You just go to Blackbird. Don't they have one?
Yeah, probably. I just haven't asked. I probably should one of these days. But I've also never been a real vintage gear nut. I've never been a real. I kind of just play whatever I got. I'm kind of a simpleton that way. Just because I don't have enough knowledge about it. And it's not something I'm super passionate about. I'm super passionate about making music and trying to play, as well as I can. But I'm not real, like I go to Vince Gill's house. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. I don't know where to walk. Can I move one of these guitars so we can make a path and walk? But it's beautiful because his heart's built that way. Mm-hmm. He loves those things. He's got some unbelievable stuff. But I have some stuff, but I don't have a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But what I have works for me.
But I can promise you this: the Dumble, as great as it is, it's not going to make you better. There's
that.
So I think that you have a pretty damn good sound right now with whatever you're doing. It's working. Yeah. So it's gotten you this far.
Well, we lied dormant there for 6 years from touring, and Andy Menon, my guitar tech.
Who, by the way, Andy organized all this. To happen, connected us. So shout out to Andy for making this possible.
He did.
Yeah.
So Dave Graff was my tech for many, many years. And then we took that break for 6 years since we toured. It was 2019, last tour we finished. And then this past year we went on the tour about. And so basically about 5.5, 6 years. And then Dave introduced me to Andy. Mm. And so then we needed to get my old Beast rig that you're hearing today out from its locker or wherever it was. What was that, SES? SES, and dust it off because he wanted to hear it. Andy wanted to go through it and just see if it's still alive. It'd been sitting there for a while. And sure enough, it needed some work. And Andy did a bunch of work to it, got some other people to do work on the amps and just, blow the dust out of it because it's just been sitting there. And so now what you're hearing is probably the best version of it because it's been rehabilitated like myself.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some beautiful shots of you, but we'll get some beautiful shots of that rig so people can see the Andy's work and all of the Bogners in their glory. And is this a wet, dry, wet rig that we're running today? Because I noticed that there was 3 cabinets in there.
Yeah, so that's another thing I learned from Dan. If you don't mind, I'll explain this.
Yeah, explain it.
When he started producing us, before we even did Life is a Highway, he would come on the road and watch us live. And he came up to me after a show. He's like, hey, man, you sound great. You're playing your butt off. He'd be very, very kind with his words. He said, but, we have your arena sound on stage before it's hitting the arena. I was like, what do you mean? You know, and he said, well, what we used to do in the 80s and early 90s, we'd separate it out. I had 2 Pacific cabinets. I'd run all my effects and stuff through those and keep my dry cabinet in the middle, you know, unaffected. And I was like, it sounds expensive. Can I borrow some money, Dan? No, but he was right, and I ended up getting a rig together and was able to do that. I couldn't find the Pacific cabinets, but we had somebody build us some.
They weren't really that special, you know.
The sound of Pacific sounds great.
You're right. Well, and a lot of them just had, you know, it was just a really small, closed back 112 that had EVs in it.
Yeah,
where it's kind of like the most honest speaker for the wet, you know. And
so true.
I think you're doing just fine out there.
Well, thank you. But I took Dan's advice, and I after that tour, it was the last tour I did with all the effects coming through. You know, my what's supposed to be my dry cabinet. And I learned a great lesson because it's so true. And you can separate it out, especially in an arena setting. Like in an arena setting, the front of house guy out there can dial in a little bit of those wet cabinets if he wants or not. Because sometimes it bounces around. The dry cabinet signal bounces around the arena and sounds like it almost is delayed anyways, you know, or has natural reverb on it. And that's... it's so great to have those options, though, you know, because if it's not there, he can dial that in. Yeah.
I think it gives you definitely the closest semblance to being in a controlled environment like this when you're going out live. And you know, it's probably, you know, part and parcel of the fact that, you know, he worked with Robert Bradshaw for all those years in the 80s. And that was just the way that they were doing rack rigs at the time because they were trying to deal with all this stuff that was designed to be in a mix bus and trying to make it compatible with rigs that were going on tours and stuff. You're like that.
You're so knowledgeable about that stuff, man. I love it. But I need to hang out with you more, buddy.
Yeah, anytime, man. Hey, I'm there.
And thank you. But I will say also, like, if we were like recording an album today or something, I'd probably just have the dry cabinet and we'd be in the box, like using delay and stuff. And
I think that's pretty typical.
Because I know it's such an easy way to do it nowadays. You know.
Sure.
Less stuff to lug.
Although you got, they got everything, right? You got your 2290 and your SPX 90 and your PCM delays and the H3000. So I don't know. When I see stuff like that in the studio, I always feel like, well, we should probably use it.
Exactly. That's sitting there for a reason to be plugged into.
That's right.
Yeah.
So should we try to play a little of this and kind of hear it to the live track in Columbus, Ohio?
Absolutely. I want to make sure I'm on the right one here.
Of their time. Yo, Buckeye fans, are you ready to rock? Yeah. We went crazy, cooped up, I went along. School is hot, so let's get it on. Flip-flop tails and some rock sand. I know the perfect spot. Well, the sun said that it's hitting so we can get in the mood. Things start getting all heated up when it starts getting cool. Somebody, everybody on your way. Let the eagle cool, park your piece of paradise. And everybody's looking sexy. Well, holler if you're ready for some. Are you ready for some summertime? Now let's go. Let's go, man. Well, I'll tell you.
Man.
That's fun.
I love the outro solo.
Thank you, man.
So good. I mean, I love every solo on there, but man, that's a really cool.
It's different from the record, you know.
Yeah, but it's perfect. It's
we
perfect.
always kind of use the rule that you know, your album is kind of a soundtrack to your live show, you know. And Jay is really great at putting set lists together, and we've gotten our thing down through the years of working up transitions in the songs and just different things to do on songs. Like the end of that one you hear is different. That's different from any tour we've done in the past. And it makes it fun for us to kind of explore our own music and keep it fresh for ourselves. Yeah.
What's the story with this Les Paul? I know we didn't really talk too much about it after the transition.
I was trying to think. We did a tour probably 2011 or 12, and wanted a star-spangled guitar. You know, I was playing the national anthem on guitar at that point. It was kind of fun, using the wah-wah and stuff, kind of an ode to Hendrix. And so I wanted something with like a red, white, and blue kind of theme, and this one popped up, and Gibson was so sweet to let us have it, and I've had it ever since. And it's a fun one to go back to. Just the scale of the neck, everything's just like, all my Les Pauls are very similar. Like the thickness of the neck and all that, it's just all the playability is there for my size hands and fingers. And so as long as that's there, like with a Les Paul, I'll pretty much play any Les Paul. Is
it tough for you to now go to a telly because of the scale length difference and being used to this?
Not so much, but I know what you're saying too. But I think that as soon as I get a telly, like I want a chicken pick, you know, I really do. And so it's different. You know, it's hard to kind of do that on a Les Paul. But with the telly, it just lends itself to it. It's what I'm used to. So I can almost like, I could take my Valley Arts if I want and try to play some Steve Vai stuff and dive bomb, you know what I mean? Try being the key word. And I can take my telly and do the Brent Mason, Vince Gill stuff and try that as well. And then I get a Les Paul in my hands. It just feels... I never dreamed I would love a Les Paul as much as I do until Dan, introduced me to it.
Do you feel... I know that some people have kind of had a controversial relationship with this in terms of like just the sound of Nashville, but certainly Mark Bright and Dan Huff have had their DNA has very much shaped the sound of the way that we kind of hear, I think, a lot of country music now. Do you think that they're largely responsible for kind of giving this rock and roll feel back to country? Like, because I would say if you think of country music kind of pre-2000s and kind of maybe late 90s, it certainly had way less of a pop element to it. Yeah. Do you think that those guys are kind of largely responsible for kind of advancing the sound of kind of how we hear country music now?
Excuse me, I'm coughing. Great question, and I think so to a large degree. But I also go back to that Mutt Lange and Shania Twain and that Come On Over record. Yeah. I think it was in mid-90s. I can't remember the exact year.
Sure.
That was a breakthrough for country radio to start playing that aggressive sounding new style of country music was amazing. And for me, I've loved it all my whole life. Metallica is one of my favorite bands, you know. I've seen them several times in concert. I've talked to Kirk Hammett, talked to those guys. They know I love them. They're like, stay away, you've been to too many shows. No, but they're great guys, and I grew up on that music. I did. I grew up with Vince Gill. Love Vince Gill. He's a dear friend now, and it's bizarre that I can call him a friend, you know. He's like a dear friend, and I love him. I'm inspired by his playing. I'm inspired by such a wide range of music that the Rascal Flatts stuff made so much sense to me because it was right in the middle of everything I love. You know, it really was. And I love gospel music. I love straight up old school country. I love blues, and I love all that. And what Rascal Flatts has done is helped me really have the outlet for it. And working with Mark Bright, they got that. Working with Dan Huff, he got that. They understood that, like, we're doing something different, whether it works or not, fine, but we're going to do something that makes us all happy first, you know. And bending those rules a little bit and having a record label that thinks outside the box like Lyric Street Records did. They signed us in late September of 1999. and they fast-tracked us. Our little 3-song sampler we had recorded with Mark Bright and Marty Williams was really ready to go on an album. So we put out Praying for Daylight. That was one of the 3. It worked, and it's amazing. It's like lightning in a bottle, right? We didn't know if it was going to work. We just knew we were doing something that made us happy. There's already plenty of other country groups out there that were great. There was already a Diamond Rio. There was already a Lone Star. You know, so we thought, well, if we're going to be ourselves, let's really be ourselves. And somehow it worked out. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, God has been good to me, buddy. 100%. Yeah. Still to this day, always. Yeah. I'm grateful for it. But I do. Back to your original question, though, I do believe they had a big hand in pushing that further forward. The Come On Over record, I'm going to guess it was 96. I'm going to say 95, 96, or 97. And then you had the Dixie Chicks that were really unique. I mean, Natalie had this rock and roll soul singing, but they had these, bluegrass instruments going, but the lyrics were really just a wonderful band, wonderful group.
Great harmonies, too.
And we were really influenced by them, too, of course. And so it was trending this way. You could see the signs of it early on with everything going on, and really paved the way for a group like us to be able to continue to hold the torch.
It's interesting that you say that
country music.
It's interesting that you say that about like Shania, because I guess I hadn't really maybe put it all together. Because even when you hear a song like "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" or something like that, and you actually have Huff and Brent Mason on the same song, right? And you start to see like two of the guys that sort of represent sort of these polar opposites of each other sonically, but they end up on the same song.
That's exactly it.
And Dan, playing whatever the lick is. He's I think with that lo-fi like guitar sound that they had going on that was like the mid range is all tweaked and
that's right. See, that's where the genius of the producer comes in there. I mean, it's Mutt Lange is just a genius all the way around. I've never gotten to meet him. I'd love to meet him at some point one of these days, but I've heard enough stories from other people who have worked with him. He's a true genius, and we're lucky to have some geniuses in our format nowadays too, though, because they're inspired by what he did.
Absolutely.
Again, as artists, you're inspired by music other artists do. Producers are inspired by the music other producers make in the same way, and I think that is another beautiful thing, because I think a big part of being a good producer is knowing what players to choose.
Yeah, casting.
Casting is so important, man, especially in Nashville. If you're not working with a band, and sometimes with a band you want to add a few more other elements in, but working with a single artist or something, the producers in this town can almost hear the track being built without anybody playing it, in their head. And they know who to get and who to cast. And that's a gift, a true gift.
Dan has definitely, I think, been great at that, whether it's, choosing a Bukovac or Derek Wells or whoever it is. He seems to know how to create the right team, to build around a song.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have an interesting Dan Huff question for you.
Okay. Shoot.
I was with Dan Huff yesterday, and I told him that we were going to be here today.
Nice.
And I said, "What's a story that I should ask Joe Don Rooney about?" Because we're going to be talking. And he said that maybe this was your third or fourth record. I don't know if he meant with him or in total. You'll have to clarify. But he said that he uncharacteristically got extremely upset with you all and said, "Does anybody give a fuck about this record except me?"
Like,
do you remember this story?
I was like, who is that guy up there all of a sudden? Yes, and the story's been shared quite a few times, so I think it's actually gotten even much more bigger than it really originally was in the moment. But yeah, me and Jay at Blackbird Studios. Dan was doing overdubs on Chris McHugh in that session, drummer, which is one of the most critical, probably the most critical part of a track is like, the drums and percussion. And Bukovac's back there with us. And there's a desk here, and then there's the console up front, little space in between, much like we have here today. and there's an old like iMac computer, and I heard Jay and Bukovac kind of laughing and snickering. I walked around and I was like, what are you guys doing? And Bukovac's like the best in the world at finding these random, like, unbelievable videos on YouTube that you just were like, where'd this come from? So we've been watching like at least 20 minutes of this. And we're, elbowing each other. We're laughing. We're falling back on the couch. We get back up and watch more. And finally, it was loud in there. We were being pretty loud. Like the teacher had had enough. I mean, and at one point, I felt like we probably should dial this back a little bit. It was too late. And Dan he stood up from the console and turned around to us and said, am I the only one that gives a F about this album? And man, we were all like deer in the headlights. Like, we know we've screwed up if Dan Huff is calling us out, And I mean, it was silent. The music stopped. YouTube stopped. And it was silent for like a good 5 to 7 seconds. And I remember just going, this isn't good, man. I love this man so much. And it's ended up being something now we can laugh about. And actually, by the time that session was over and we're all walking out, we were having a little bit of a giggle about it, But it was also in a moment that I took in and I go, you only get so much time in this world. You only get so much time making music. And music is time. But at the same time, you should take advantage of it. If you're going to be serious about it, be serious about it and get it done and do it. You can have fun along the way. Man, soak it up while you can, because at some point time runs out, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that this would be a great segue into a Dan Huff produced song, which is
Sweet.
What Hurts the Most.
Oh man, what a beast.
Now, I can't remember whether it was What Hurts the Most or My Wish. We were talking with Jay, or I was talking with Jay at lunch, and I asked him how good his hit meter was in terms of being able to tell. And he says his is pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Except there was one that he got wrong. And I think it was this one. I think it was What Hurts the Most. And I think he was concerned that that you guys had like 2 back-to-back ballads. And he thought that if there was another one that was released as a single, that it would have this detrimental effect. I'm pretty sure it was this one because, it was off of Me and My Gang. And I think he wanted Me and My Gang to be the next single because it was a little bit more up-tempo.
Luckily, Jay doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's get that straight right now. No, I'm kidding.
Do you have any recollection of this?
I remember, for me personally, I just remember thinking that that song we wrote was called Winner at a Losing Game. We all 3 wrote it together, made the record. It was a single. And, it did well at radio, too. But if we go play it live, like right now, people are like, what are they playing? They go get beer, whatever, popcorn. And, how do they not know this song? We poured our hearts out. But a couple of things with that. I truly believe the fans want to hear something that you sing with conviction and passion, and they could care less if you wrote it. I think we're lucky to have this format of country music that does that probably better than any other format there is. And What Hurts the Most, a prime example, I mean, one of the most successful probably writers in Nashville of the last 30, 40 years is Jeffrey Steele. His demos sound like records. I don't know if you've ever listened to a demo by Jeffrey Steele, but it's like he sings his butt off, and it sounds like it could be put on a record tomorrow. And so the inspiration you draw from a great demo like that too, it's like amazing. And so we've always had the rule, best song wins, no matter what. If we happen to write it, or if Gary happens to write it, he's had a few really big singles with us, or if somebody else outside writes it, it doesn't matter. But the one that I thought would be a hit and wasn't, such a good question. Jay said What Hurts the Most?
Well, he said that was, I think he said What Hurts the Most. It could have been My Wish. I could be wrong about that, but that was also Jeffrey Steele though too, wasn't it?
Yeah. At that time, Dan Huff and Jeffrey were working hand in hand, every other day. Jeffrey was walking a hit song into Dan.
Yeah.
And Dan's got a real good ear for And the thing about finding it, knowing what a hit song is knowing if a hit song is a hit song with a certain artist that you're working with.
Right, again, casting.
It could be different.
Yeah.
This song had been recorded before.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of different times. Kind of like with Broken Road. It had been recorded several times, but it just, our version, the right time in the world, whatever it is, it lines up. You just never know. And thank God Dan knew that. And did Jay say that he felt good about it being a hit?
Well, I think it was less that he, not that he didn't think it was going to be a hit. And again, I could be confusing my wish because they were both on Me and My Gang.
Yeah, there was
but he had just said that he wanted the next single to be Me and My Gang because the two previous singles had been ballads, and so he was like, we need something to break up the cycle of ballads, and so he was like, I was betting on this. And it turned out that I was overridden because I guess the record label came and flew out to Kentucky or something like that to like see you guys and try to convince you. And he said he was outvoted, and it turned out that was the song. And because I guess in terms of how it did, I think that what hurts the most was, well, I guess it's about the same as My Wish in terms of its popularity.
Totally.
Yeah.
And Life's a Highway's on that record too.
Yeah.
And that was probably the one that's been played the most. But in terms of popularity, the video was a big success, which is interesting. We recorded this really longer than normal video. I was inspired by Green Day's the November song they had. I forget what the exact title is, but I remember it was like a mini movie. Mm-hmm. I saw it on VH1. And I called our manager. I was like, hey, we're going to do what hurts the most. We should do a mini movie, And we did. And it ended up being so wild because it was just different.
That was a really big deal, though, back then. Like, everybody had to do videos.
It was on fire, man, back then. That was another huge outlet to get you.
Would those be like millions of dollars that bands would spend on a video? Yeah.
Some, yeah. That was a pretty high dollar one. But it's amazing how, back to the thought of the right song, right artist. I mean, we've had quite a few like that we're so fortunate that we got somebody brought it to our attention, whether it be Dan Huff or I remember on our third album we did Broken Road. It had been sitting in our camp since 1999 when we got our record deal. And because of Jay, he brought it to everybody's attention. We have another room for like one more track on this project. And he's like, man, I was thinking the other day, like, what about going back to Broken Road, man? There's something about that song we all like. And because of that, it made that record and ended up doing what it did, Just a feeling. And speaking up about it, and telling people how you feel. And that means something.
Who played that piano intro?
That was Tim Akers, who was in our band for a while, too, on the road. Phenomenal. And I hope I'm right about that. Dang it.
Jay didn't want to come out of retirement on that one.
Definitely could easily have done. Man, I'm saying Tim, bless his soul, he's passed, and we miss him so much. Tim is such a gifted musician. I'm saying it's Tim, but I don't know. It's not.
Was that you on the? Because then the mandolin comes in like slightly at the.
We didn't play on the first.
Okay, so that was the
album. I played a little bit because on I played some rhythm stuff, but it wasn't until Dan came in the picture.
So he was kind of the advocate for you to be like.
Well, Jay was the biggest advocate. We were frustrated, man. We really were because the two reasons, really, because the boy band thing. And we were like, no one's seeing us live. They need to come out and see us. They can see that we actually play, And then the second part was the label liked the fact we're churning out these hit songs and just wanted to keep doing it the same way in the studio.
Right.
We're conflicted as artists. We're like, we really want to play. We need to be playing, man. It's like, geez. Finally, Jay put his foot down, had enough, and he stood up for us. To this day, I appreciate that so much because it did open up the door to explore more of what Rascal Flatts' potential is. And me as a player, and especially him, but he vouched for me. And Jay's been a huge, huge influence on me musically. I mean, he's such a one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. I just happened to be in a band with him, you know. He can play anything with strings on it. But it's phenomenal. I'm so glad he stood up, took our conversations into the label and our managers and said it's going to have to be like this. And they allowed it. And so we slowly started playing. On the third album, we started playing quite a bit more, mainly rhythm stuff. And, you know, if I'm making a record, I'm going to have Dan Huff play a solo, and I'm new to it. A little green still at that time. Like, yeah, I'm going to choose Dan Huff about every time. Every time. I'd still rather him play, to be honest. But thank you, Jay. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It really changed the whole trajectory of all of our careers.
And Dan even said, you know, that you had no idea how good you were, you know, and he really, you know, I think he was as much of wanting you to be the player, I think, more than him, you know.
Sounds like Dan.
Yeah.
He's one of the sweetest people on this planet. And gosh, I owe him so much. And he'd sit right here and say, "No, you don't, buddy."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, but I do."
Yeah. You ready to play a little What Hurts the Most?
Yeah, can I use the bathroom first?
Sure.
That's what hurts the most. I hope it doesn't.
I can take the rain on the roof of this empty house. That don't bother me. I can take a few tears now and then and just let them out. I'm not afraid to cry every once in a while, even though going on with you gone still upsets me. There are days every now and again I pretend I'm okay, but that's not what gets me. What hurts the most was being so close and having so much to say and watching you walk away and never knowing what could have been and not seeing that loving you is what I was trying to do. It's hard to deal with the pain of losing you everywhere I go, but I'm doing it. It's hard to force that smile when I see our old friends and I'm alone. Still harder getting up, getting dressed, living with this regret. But I know if I could do it over, I would trade, give away all the words that I saved in my heart that I left unspoken. What hurts the most is being so close and having so much to say and watching you walk away and never knowing what could have been and not seeing that loving you is what I was trying to do. What hurts the most was being so close and having so much to say and watching you walk away and never knowing what could have been and not seeing that loving you is what I was trying to do. Not seeing that loving you, that's what I was trying to do.
What I want people to get is that every single one of these songs we've done so far, this is one take. There's no punches. There's no. I want you to know that this is rare.
Oh,
we do a lot of these interviews, you know.
That's very sweet.
And yeah, I think it's just a testament to the great guitar player that you are.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I will say this. I'm thinking my butt off. Might not look at it out here, but like live versus studio, it's kind of fun. It's like doing a math problem or something in my head as I'm playing. I'm thinking like, there's so many things we changed for this tour for what we're doing on the songs we're doing on the tour versus any other tour, and then it's different from the album. And I'm like, and for a second I stopped because Gary's such a great singer, and I was like, are we doing the live track or is this it's the record? Okay, I hear it now. And so, but thank you for your words. It means a heck of a lot. It
Well,
truly
I'm
does.
just telling you what I see. When you would do like a session like this for Rascal Flatts, like what would an ordinary day look like if you're tracking, what hurts the most? Like what does that day look like from like, inception to, completion of the song? Like what's that arc look like to somebody who knows nothing about the recording process?
It's interesting because it's basically like cutting really expensive demos. It is. You got a band leader. Usually Jay could lead it, or hire somebody else. Maybe, just whoever. Maybe an ACAT that that leads it. Draw up the chord charts. We'll listen to the demo, and then we'll all go in there and make some noise. But we'll usually run it 2 or 3, 4 times and then come back in and make notes. And working with Dan, he was always good about, like right here, maybe we should do this. Maybe this chord structure should change. Maybe the bridge should be a bunch of notes, right? And then go back in. You've seen this process done before. And it's an amazing process. But a producer that knows when enough is enough, or we need more or less, is always key. That's a gift, man. That is such a gift. That's a gift that's way different than like being a great songwriter or a great player. Dan just happens to be all the above. By the way, we could just do 2 more hours about Dan Huff.
Yeah, he's got to hit the music lottery in so many ways.
Dude, it's amazing, and I'm so proud of him and for him. But I guess the day would consist of, we'd have a list of songs. We typically, for any project, would probably have 25, 30 songs that we've weeded down from the hundreds we've listened to or gotten pitched to us. And we'd go, okay, this week we're going to get to these 6. Which 6 is it going to be? And we'd all kind of throw songs in the hat, be like, we want this, this, this. We'd weed it down to like 6 to 8 songs. And probably only track in 3 or 4 days, probably 6 songs.
So almost 2 a day.
Yeah, typically.
So this song would have likely been done with something else that same day?
This was tracked with Life is a Highway.
Same time? Yeah, that's right. You told us.
Oh, well, no, there's just 2 different days on these 2
in
particular. But we've had plenty of tracking days and sessions with Dan Huff. We recorded 2, maybe 3 songs before. But weeding the songs down to the ones you want to do is the hardest part, man, because we've turned down some just really great songs, and it's amazing. Some of the ones have gone on to be hits for other people. Yeah, that's great.
Any that you could say that you're like, oh, I wish I could have had that.
Yeah, Watching Airplanes, the big one. Keith Urban had These Days on hold for a long time, and we were able to get that out of his hands and recorded that, for the second album. There's been more. I know there's been lots of more. I mean, there's been so many more. There's so many songs we've been pitched. I bet we've been pitched 5,000 to 10,000 songs easily in our career, if you think about it. I mean, that's off the top of my head, probably.
Wow.
A lot.
I think it's one thing that maybe even I hadn't considered, because when you think about sort of the ubiquity of Rascal Flatts, of course, everybody wanted you to sing their songs. You're probably just getting everybody to...
Well, another writer, Neil Thrasher, has just written he's on fire, man. Still, he's had a heck of a run, and a lot with Jason Aldean and us. We had "Take Me There" is one of our songs that Neil wrote. He and Wendell Mobley, and they got with Gary early on in our career, and they wrote "I Melt," "Fast Cars and Freedom," and just nailed it to the wall. Just songs that, like, to me, when I hear a song like that blows me away, it's because it's like adding another color to the Rascal Flatts wall of colors. It's not going to hurt us. It's not going to, like, take away from what we do. It's just going to add another layer of a beautiful dimension to Rascal Flatts. And as soon as I hear a song that does that to me, I have no doubts it's at least going to make the album.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance it'll be a single at some point.
Well, I think in particular, like with a lot of those songs, like including "Fast Cars and Freedom," I think it takes a slice of like Americana and really paints a picture of, I think, culturally of what a lot of Americans experience, and they're able to capture it through, you know, these metaphors or these moments. Like if you think of like a Chevy Nova and, you know, all the other Dogwood, and like there's all these words that are so evocative of specific like imagery. But like when I think about it, I was like, this is like you know, like it could be romantic in one way, or it could be, you know, just like a memory of being a kid, and this imagery that, you know, certain foliage or a car or whatever. It has an interesting way to kind of give you like a Polaroid, like this embedded image of America in a way. And so I think that's a really cool thing.
By the way.
Yeah.
That's really good. No, but we do have me and my gang talks about, there's one or two hillbillies in New York City's got one or two hillbillies ready to hit the road. So we've always kind of thought that country was a state of mind. It doesn't have to be a certain lifestyle. You don't have to wear boots and wear a hat. To us, that's our feelings on it. And maybe somebody else disagrees, and that's fine. But to us, it's like, it's a state of mind, you know? It really is. And gosh, the country music world has grown so much. It's definitely the most diverse genre there is. Excuse me, but thank God for it, because we have some amazing artists from, A to Z. It's like everything you want. It's right here in country music, and it's amazing to be a small part of it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking yesterday, Ben and I, who's over here, that, you know, like the two biggest acts that can sell out consecutive dates in the stadium, you know, are all country acts, you know.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's wild.
It is, and it's just something about just the ebb and flow of culture and music and arts, and you know, it's going to be another genre's heyday before long. And other genres are doing great too. Don't get me wrong. You know that as well as I do. But, you know, I kind of miss when rock and roll is really on top, though. I got to be honest. Like 70s, 80s rock and roll, you know, was just.
But you're kind of like country music right now is the closest thing we have to that.
Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah, it is.
Truly
absolutely is. Yeah, so.
It's kind of Bon Jovi-esque, kind of Guns N' Roses-esque. I mean, some of these tracks, that Aldean's tracks and stuff, are amazing, man. Yeah. It's like Southern rock tracks are just bad to the bone. And you got Carrie Underwood, who sings kind of
38
similar.
Special. I hear a lot of 38 kind of 38 Special.
Totally, man.
There's a lot of that.
Well, you know, thinking on like other guitarists of Keith Scott's big influence on me.
Oh boy, he's a guy that I've wanted to connect with. I have no idea.
Okay, yeah. I've never got to meet him, but I've sure met him a lot of times. Listened to the music.
Everybody's heard him, man. If you've heard all those Bryan Adams songs, Keith Scott is a genius.
It's right in the wheelhouse of what we're talking about with what Huff does. It's to be simple, melodic,
singable solos, singable melodies.
But then the tone is like, man, that tone is severely wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, there's no other way for me to say it. I think he did a lot of that on a Strat.
Oh, yeah, Strats, Marshalls, and
but it sounds so thick for a Strat.
In Boss pedals primarily.
Yeah,
you know, like those old Boss, like CS1s, and
on this latest duets project we have coming out with Huff, I did a couple of solos using the Blue Guitar Amp one we talked about, and Thomas Blug, who I've gotten to know on the phone at least pretty well, a great guy. But I used Huff's original Huff guitar, and went through the amp one, but he also used a little bit of extra. It was the yellow distortion pedal from like the 90s.
Oh, I think it's the SD2 is what he's been.
Is it SD2? I wrote it down.
It has
I'm
concentric
probably out of
knobs.
the shot right now. Sorry, guys. Was it the SD2? That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Boss
Yellow
SD2.
Boss SD.
The dual overdrive.
Dual overdrive,
Yeah.
and that thing's got a little bit of something it does. It's really cool.
Yeah, Bukovac was really into those in like the early 2000s. If you look at those like 2000 to 2008 rigs of his,
Yeah.
you know, they had like the green line 6 delay, that stuff.
We all went through that phase too.
Yeah, everybody.
I was just always behind Book. He'd be
Yeah.
kicking it off. I'd be like 4 years after that. I'd get the stuff. You know,
It was a phase, just like torn Levi's. You know? Everybody
That's
had
so
everybody had them. And
very true.
no, they were, you know, actually, they're, if you hear them now, they're actually they stand up. They're pretty good. You know.
if you can find an old original '90s model, man, they're great. Actually, I handed it off to Andy, my guitar tech. You guys met him earlier. Andy
Yeah.
Minute. But he got it fixed. It was like the light would not come on for some reason. I don't know what exactly was going on with it, but it sounds great. It sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if we can get into another
Yeah, what do you
tune
got?
off of Me and My Gang and get into My Wish, which I don't think was the hit that Jay was referencing, but it could have been.
It could have been. You know, we've all had that feeling
Yeah.
a time or two throughout our career, like when you think something's going to be just monumental and it turns out just being okay, or when you think like there's no way this thing will, and it takes off and all of a sudden it's whatever, somehow it's at a play at somebody's wedding or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, the people are the barometer, the fans are the barometer. You never know what you got. You just have to, I think you got to make your music with all of your heart and soul, sing it with conviction, and just release it. It's like raising a child. You got to just release it on into the world, and whatever the world thinks of it, is what they think of it, and you can't take it personal. You know, you got to just let it be. I think Paul McCartney might have said that at some point.
Yeah.
If he didn't write that, that'd be a good one, right?
Yeah.
But it's so true, right?
Yes.
You just gotta let it go.
Yeah.
And we've had songs that didn't do well at all, and it's like, oh no, our career's over. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? You know? And the truth is, there's always another song around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's definitely true of your catalog.
So blessed.
Yeah. All right, let's hear it.
I hope the days come easy and the moments pass slow, and each road leads you where you wanna go. And if you're faced with a choice and you have to choose, I hope you choose the one that means the most to you. And if one door opens to another door closed, I hope you keep on walking till you find the window. If it's cold outside, show the world the warmth of your smile. But more than anything, my wish for you is that this life becomes all that you wanted to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same things too. Yeah, this is my wish. I hope you never look back, but you never forget all the ones who love you in the place you left. I hope you always forgive and you never regret, and you help somebody every chance you get. Oh, you find God's grace in every mistake, and always give more than you take. But more than anything, yeah, more than anything, my wish for you is that this life becomes all that you wanted to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same things too. Yeah, this about this life becomes all that you wanted to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same things too. Yeah, this is my wish. This is my wish. I hope you know somebody loves you. May all your dreams stay big.
The tone, man.
Once again, I was thinking about what we do live. Thank you. Tracks you pulled sound great. It's inspiring.
Yeah,
Very
well,
inspiring.
well, we have Moises to thank for that.
Moises, thank you so much. I'm so
Yeah.
glad my son told me about Moises.
Yeah.
Because I do use it a lot, actually. It's,
Yeah.
Gosh, these kids nowadays have it made. Holy crap. With YouTube, apps like Moises, I mean, I remember, God, I sound so old doing this, but it's like my mom's first original computer with a CD player. I could load the song into it and then somewhat slow it down to like hear Steve Vai ripping off like all the crazy licks he used to do, you know, on all his music. And nowadays you can slow it down as slow as you want and keep it in the same key. And it's like, wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing how technology is so far advanced now.
Well, I want to move us in to another song, also with Dan Huff. You're noticing a pattern here, maybe.
You know, Dan comes around every like
Right.
hour or so.
Which is the song Banjo.
Yeah.
And I dig this song. It's a little different than, you know, some of the stuff
man.
in terms of the tempo and the feel of the songs we've
is,
done so far.
Such a Dixie Dregs kind of thing. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like, again, it's another dimension of what Flatts is able to do in kind of a cool hip way. And
You get to try your Steve Morse.
exactly, man. It's like Huff and I, we think a
Yeah,
lot
he
when
loves
it comes
Steve
to
Morris.
that. And that song just lends itself to that style and those stylings. And once again, it's part of my heart. You know, if you could cut up my heart like a pizza pie, like that's a section that is a big part of my heart. That kind of country rock guitar, you know?
Do you remember for this song what you used gear-wise?
63.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's back here. We're going to bring it out.
Yeah, we'll get some beautiful B-roll of it.
Oh, actually,
yeah.
I think we're going to play probably a Tyler for this one because that Tyler Telly's pretty amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about for the amp? Was it the Bogner or?
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
You know, I was using the Bogner pretty much in everything back then. Rode Studio. You know, also, we got to where sometimes Huff would, we would do some ODs at his house and sometimes use what was in the box. And he got some really rad tones sometimes on some plugins.
Yeah,
I don't want to poo-poo on amps and stuff, but it's like, it's pretty amazing.
he's got these plugins that he uses that actually we used, in fact, with him on some of our original videos. That's made by Scuffum Amps, which is a British company, and they have some amazing sounding plugins that we even used when we were hanging out with him yesterday. So that might have been what he used. Well, look at this thing.
I know this thing.
So tell us about this guitar. So James Tyler Guitars
It is
in
man.
Los Angeles, California.
I got this, I guess, back. God, I wish I knew what year it was. I'd say 2000.
It looks certainly more
14,
contemporary
15,
with this
something like that.
this headstock.
Yeah, he man, he was a heck of a guy, man. He
Had recently passed away.
he came out to some shows and saw us, and I got to meet him several times. Just seemed like just a genuinely sweet, heart of a guy. And man, could he design a guitar and build a guitar? And his whole team is just amazing. But they told me to look online and see if anything caught my eye. I'd already had a couple of other telly styles like this. And for what we do, flats were a little bit crazy sometimes. And the whole style of this color, I have a red, kind of more of a Strat style. I call it the vomit guitar. It looks like vomit. It's called something else.
Yeah, well, there is a Tyler color called psychedelic vomit.
Yeah,
so it could be that.
That's probably where I stole the idea from then.
And it's got a humbucker in the neck and then a traditional telly bridge. And then did you add this bridge aftermarket that's a Glendale bridge with compensated saddles?
They must have put it on. No, I don't know. That's unless I wonder if dude, don't you wish I knew more about my gear? I'm somebody that just doesn't. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But I just play whatever they give me. This, I'm not for sure. Dave Graff might have slapped that on it.
Okay.
I'm not for sure. But you want to play this thing? Plays like a dream.
You'll play it first. I'll play it after.
Everybody ready? Do you want to turn the party up just a little bit more? Yeah. I can't hear you. And throw your hands up to the sky. When I lose my smile, when my thoughts get jumbled, when they hearing me as it gets too thick, and take a breath without getting sick. Had enough of this concrete jungle, but then I drop my truck and drive, and I pick up my baby. Well, now she jumps in with a kiss and a hey, exit off that old highway. It's time she gotta go beyond the baby. Come on, somebody. Well, you gotta go, baby. Sit away all night. You cross a few creeks, and a couple little sacks is what you do. You gotta get along. Sit away all night. With crickets and frogs. Yeah, so you start to get closer now. And you kick it in the four-wheel drive and you run on the road. Then you go, then you go, and you go, go, go. And you hear the banjo all right. Then it ain't on no map. Then I'm glad it is on. It'll leave the phone in the GPS. Satellites ain't found it yet. Whole little piece of heaven hidden. Well, you gotta go, baby. Get away on high. Cross a little creek. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, couple little sacks, that's what you do. You gotta get along. Get away on high. With crickets and frogs. Yeah, we're getting close now. I think we kick it in the four-wheel drive when you run on the road. When you go, when you go, when you go, go. Come on, keep play that thing, boy. Yes, sir. Gotta go deep, way on down, cross a few creeks, in a couple little sacks. You gotta get lost in the wild, crickets and frogs, yeah, you're getting close now. You can kick it in a four-wheel drive when you run on the road. When you go, 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 when you go. Somebody better drop it down into four-wheel drive when you're crossing Allen Creek. Let's get it. Hey! You better drop whatever you're driving down into four-wheel drive. We're gonna cross a few creeks and a couple little sacks. That's what you're gonna do. Yeah, let's play.
sounds great.
It's hard to. Thank you. It's hard to like visualize where Jim Riley, our drummer, is going to be hitting that.
Right.
Anyways, that is such a fun song. It's something different for us.
Get a little drop D.
Banjo and guitar, together. Yeah.
How many drop D songs do you guys got in your catalog?
The two, really, I think. Just
All
that
right.
and Me and My Gang, which is also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A little talk box on it. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And just if folks aren't familiar, James Tyler Guitars in LA, he was kind of one of the original sort of godfathers of the Super
he
Strat
was.
in LA. Used to work at a Norman's Rare Guitars
Pioneer,
as a
man.
repairman and kind of modifying guy, then moved off on his own and started this brand. And everybody from Michael Landau to Dan Huff and name pretty much any of the prominent studio musicians in LA. Almost every one of them. Lukather, absolutely.
Lukather's amazing. We've gotten to talk about some guitar heroes and stuff, but what's really interesting to me and crazy is that all these guys I used to just like study in my little bedroom in my house in Oklahoma, I'm like, I know these guys now, and it's so weird, man. It's so weird. They're friends. They're like normal people, I thought they were like robots or aliens or something, And they're normal, wonderful people and just extraordinary abilities. And getting to hang around them and like, it's funny, like with Lukather, like it doesn't matter when you call him, he will answer. He might, hey, what's up, man? What's up, JD? Where are you, man? Oh, I'm over here in Taiwan, man. We're doing a big show tonight. What? And it's like some odd, like it might be 4 a.m. over there or something, but he'll answer. And it's like such a sweet human being, man.
Wow.
And obviously a shredder
Yeah.
like no other. And we got to do some different gigs with him. He came out with us and came on stage quite a few years back and got to rip with him, and it was just amazing. And then like Nuno Betancourt, he's another guy that I really admire. I've always admired his playing. Such a unique style. Another great guy, man. And I've gotten to know him pretty well. And it's like my heroes along the way in my journey to Nashville. I've now gotten to pretty much meet them and make some music with them in some way. I just feel so grateful for that. It's crazy, right? It's like, it's just an amazing thing. I hope that I can always keep that little boy from Pitcher, Oklahoma heart, because that's what got me here. And I'm on the search of getting back there,
I dig that.
Sure. It's interesting. The last 5 years of my life has been quite the whirlwind in a lot of ways. And back in 2021, I hit a tree at 4 a.m. in the morning. I should not have been driving. I can put the pieces together. And I went to jail. And that was not fun. And I had to get some help. And luckily I had a really, really amazing friend, Jason Friedenstein, that flew me out to Utah. I spent 4 months there. I got sober for the first time in my adult life. I'd tried it in various ways. I'd had some decent success, months without it, almost a year at one point, actually a little over a year at one point, but I couldn't tell you that next drink that happened, but it happened. And until that moment, I was really at a low point in my life, man. And I needed to get out of Nashville. I needed to get out of Tennessee. I needed a break mentally, physically, all the above. As a bandmate to Jay and Gary, as a husband and a father, and I am so grateful for that time out there because I got to shut it down. Didn't have any kind of devices with me at all, just books. And so I got to read a lot, be around a lot of other people, struggling with the same similar things I was struggling with. And also what's crazy about that is like I met a lot of people that I always thought I kind of felt this way, and I'm like very one-dimensional, like nobody else on earth can feel like I do, It turns out there's a lot of people in this world that are going through similar stuff and have been going through similar stuff, and I met a lot of those wonderful people out there in Utah. I stay in touch with them to this day. I got back home January of 2022. While I was there, by the way, I couldn't bring a guitar, couldn't play music. I had to focus on this thing, trying to get through this reset of my life and looking at life in a whole other way and looking at how to live in ways I hadn't been before. And so when I got out of treatment, I was very nervous to come back home. First off, after the wreck and stuff, quite a few people heard about that incident, and I was just mortified. I was so ashamed, especially with my kids and stuff. They're getting to that age where, even just 2-3 years ago, they were old enough to know. So I came home. I didn't want to touch the guitar. I didn't want to play golf everybody that knows me knows I love golf with a passion. And I just had a hard time getting back into like normal life. It took me a while. And so luckily I didn't have to jump back into doing anything. And Flatts was still not even really talking about doing anything yet, 2022. So slowly but surely, 2024 rolls around. I start writing again, writing songs with some friends and grabbing the acoustic and playing it again. And it started to become very therapeutic. The feel of an acoustic guitar around your chest and just strumming it, simple as that is, I don't think all these years I really paid much attention to how much it resonates with you.
Right.
Until I got sober. And it's phenomenal. The way I feel now about everything in life is different. If I'm overwhelmed, I'm really overwhelmed. If I'm happy, I'm really happy. If I'm sad, I'm really sad, It's like I'm finally, and it's like all the switches have flipped on from my feelings and my senses and my emotions. So that's taken me a while to get used to how to deal with it and to utilize it as well. And I know a lot of friends that have came out similar circumstances like myself are gung-ho and jump right back into what they're doing. But everybody's case is different. And in my case is unique in that it's my case and it's me. I can only speak for myself. And so playing guitar was, 3 years of not playing or a little bit more. I lost so much confidence. I lost some chops here and there where I used to be able to play certain things, fairly easily, and it's taken me a while to work up to it. But the most beautiful thing is, though, the respect I have now for the sheer enjoyment of just making music and hearing Gary sing every night on stage and just blow people's minds with that voice of his. And Gary's just prowess on bass and on piano. He's a heck of a keyboard player and piano player. I don't know if you know that, but he's like really, really good. And watching them shine this whole past tour has just been, it's like a whole new lease on, it's like Flatts 2.0, it feels like, to me. And I'm able to do it in a way that, for me, that's healthy and grateful. Somebody said one time when I was in treatment, they said, getting sober, it's not about feeling better. It's about getting better at feeling. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand what that meant when I was in the moment in Utah. But nowadays I go, oh, yeah, because I'm actually feeling everything now. I'm not numbed out at all. I can feel it all. And I'm like, bring life on, whatever it is. Including 11 months later, when I got home in January 2022, 11 months later, my dad passed away, November 19th, 2022, and I just, I got through it somehow.
That would have been a real test.
Unbelievable. I rallied the troops. I got my 3 older siblings. We all got together, and now it's so beautiful because we didn't used to have like a group text and all like check in and stuff, but now we do. And practically every day somebody sends a very positive, uplifting message, and so we stay connected. And I know Daddy's up there. I know he's gonna live on inside of all of us, but I know he's so happy about that. Like the kids are all talking to each other again. That's fantastic, right? And it's amazing, I'm losing Dad. Like, my mom and dad are such a huge part of my musical journey. and equally, just uniquely, you know, my mom versus my dad. And this past tour, like every night, there was some moment in the show I could feel Dad with me. I could feel him so much. I could feel him like hearing the music or being happy and so proud that we got back together, because he wanted that so bad. He really wanted that so bad, and so we're back together, and it's a miracle, to be honest.
Well, it's been such an inspiration to hear you play, and I know I'm certainly grateful as a fan of the music to be able to witness it. And man, you probably have heard this before, but I'm going to tell you again that, you know, this music I think was hugely important to a lot of people that love pop music and love country music, and you know, you brought a lot of joy and happiness to me as a fan of music, and I'm just so inspired by the guitar playing, and I'm so impressed with just your candor and your willingness to share openly about what's going on. I know that, you know, these are questions that people have, and I just appreciate so much that you're such a open book, and I just want to just say from the bottom of my heart, man, it's been a real blessing just to be sitting next to you and really get to experience this for myself.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Joe Don, if there's anything that people can check out as far as kind of what you're up to, stuff for Rascal Flatts, where is the best place for people to learn about what you're up to, or is there anything you can tell us about that's going to be coming here in the near future?
You know, just our duets project, Rascal Flatts, Life is a Highway, Refueled Duets. It comes out in June 6th, actually, to be exact. But rascalflatts.com, I mean, Instagram, we're Rascal Flatts on that, and X, the same. I think they even got TikTok now and some other ones. You know, I used to be pretty active on those, and I haven't been, but I plan to be more active because, like I said, everything for me is in due time now. I'm kind of just walking this new path and really taking my time with it. It's like I want to take advantage of this second chance.
Yeah. Well, again, it's just been such a blast to sit here alongside you and get to experience it. And I just can't thank you enough for allowing us to be here.
You're so knowledgeable and you're so gifted at doing this. I know you're going to do this for many, many more years to come. And I feel very humbled that you have included me in this.
Thank you. Yeah, man. My pleasure.